CUC students. This is your host speaking, Christopher Villacorta Lopez.
And I'm Krisha Backen. Today is Monday, October 3, 2011, and you're watching On Point News.
Typhoon Nissan, after bringing death and widespread flooding to the Philippines last week, has made landfall on the eastern tip of China. Authorities took precautions by closing schools, suspending ferry service, and recalling fishing boats. The storm made its way across the South China Sea from the Philippines, where the storm killed 35 people and left another 45 missing. Flood control officials evacuated nearly 58,000 people from low-lying areas in eastern Wenchang City and canceled 67 flights as the storm blew down trees and flooded streets while moving across the city. The storm passed through Hong Kong earlier in the day, forcing the suspension of trade in the stock market and the closure of shops and businesses. Luckily in Hong Kong, the storm caused little damage and few serious injuries were reported.
Wow, sounds like a really serious storm. Well, our prayers go out for everyone who was affected. Moving closer to home, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency are in the early planning stages of building fences along the border of Canada to keep possible terrorists and criminals out. A draft report proposes fencing and barriers to manage trouble spots where passage of cross-border violators is difficult to control. Border Service is also looking into options including a higher technological presence with the use of radar, sensors, drones, and vehicle scanners. Currently, there is nearly 3,800 Customs and Border Protection officers inspecting vehicles and goods at crossings with the help of unmanned U.S. aircrafts. The border is distinguished with a 12-meter swash cut through the forest in unmonitored land. Customs and Border Protection is inviting comments and opinions on the matter and plans a series of public meetings before further pursuing the idea.
Sounds like the U.S. is taking the line good fences make good neighbors a little bit to the extreme.
Now we move live to Sharice Pearman in Saudi Arabia.
Sharice, what's been going on in the past week in Saudi Arabia?
Well, Chris, last week, after years of suffrage, Saudi Arabia gave in to global pressure and granted women the right to vote and run in future municipal elections. Most recently, a sentence of 3 lashes to a Saudi woman who recorded herself driving and posted the video on Facebook has been revoked after public outrage.
How do women's rights in Saudi Arabia compare to the rest of the Middle East?
Although women's rights have lagged behind in much of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia has resisted making feminist reforms and still denies women the most basic of freedoms, such as driving or leaving the country without a male guardian or a male's permission.
What is the mood like among the citizens and supporters of women's rights?
Supporters of women's rights in Saudi Arabia are jubilant. Many have recognized that the unnecessary and harshly enforced restrictions put upon women in the country are outdated and in violation of human rights. As with any change, some are upset that women are gaining the right to vote and increased freedoms. Feminist supporters, however, remain hopeful that with time, public support will increase and women will be able to take a more active role within Saudi Arabian society. That is Sharice Pearman signing off, Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Sharice. That was an insightful update. Now on to national news.
A Calgary man, Dustin Paxton, is being charged with aggravated sexual assault and forcible confinement of his employee and roommate. The abused, a 200-pound, 27-year-old man, was dropped off at a Regina hospital in April 2010, weighing only 87 pounds with broken bones, brain damage, and disfiguration. Many witnesses have come forward claiming to have seen the victim in bad condition, and he would claim to have been in a work accident. One witness said he offered the man a place to stay, but his offer was refused for fear of Mr. Paxton's reaction. The dynamics of their relationship remains unknown, and many theories as to why the abusive relationship continued have been speculated. The Crown plans to call 50 witnesses in the trial that is expected to last 5 weeks beginning in mid-October.
That is a horrendous tragedy. On a lighter note, Windsor, Ontario has officially been murder-free for 2 years. It is a stretch that impresses both law enforcement officials and citizens on both sides of the border. The city cites gun control and their focus on local gangs and drugs for keeping the homicide rate low. Windsor has been taking many steps to reduce crime in the city, including introducing guns, gangs, and drug unit in 2006 aimed at handling cross-border drug trades. Detroit, only 1,200 meters away, has a record of 260 homicides to date in 2011, and Edmonton, Alberta, has had a total of 13 homicides since January. Windsor's longest murder-free streak was between 1918 and 1921, and is a feat all cities should strive for.
Congratulations to the city of Windsor. If you're from Windsor, be proud.
That's right, there have also been some interesting Canadian individuals who have attracted global attention. Their stories are next. Our first personal focus goes to a Montreal man who is less than 300 kilometers from completing an epic journey of walking around the world. Jean Beliveau left Montreal and ran, pushing a three-wheeled stroller all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, before changing his pace to a determined walk. This 11-year walk would become the longest uninterrupted walk around the world, with a distance of 75,000 kilometers across 64 countries. Over the 11 years, he traveled across both deserts and mountains. He fell in love for 9 days in Mexico, wore a turban and a long beard in Sudan, ate insects in Africa, dogs in South Korea, and snakes in China, and was unexpectedly escorted by armed soldiers in the Philippines. Beliveau only fell seriously ill once in Algeria, was mugged only once by 2 young drunks in South Africa, and was detained only once in Ethiopia, for no apparent reason. When Beliveau left Montreal, he had $4,000, and his loving girlfriend supplied that amount each year of his journey. Beliveau expects to reach the embrace of his long-standing girlfriend in Montreal on October 16. Congratulations, Jean. You are an inspiration to us all.
Beliveau isn't the only Canadian becoming globally known. A PEI man has been creating his own sort of social networking around the globe with a rather archaic method. Harold Hackett has made a global name for himself by throwing 5,000 bottles into the Atlantic Ocean just to see where it will end up. Each bottle is filled with a message inviting the finder to send a reply to the address provided. Hackett threw his first in 1995 just to see what would happen. After the first reply, he has been sending bottles ever since. I've got something like 3,300 back so far, Hackett says proudly, from all over the world. Sometimes his bottles are found within weeks or months. Other times, the time between sent and received is huge. You put the bottle with the message out in May 1999. The note is in perfect condition, wrote Aidan Green in 2009 after finding the bottle on the Irish coast. Hackett has designed a new form of networking, and we are waiting for our message.
In campus news, congratulations to Amishadiah Flores on her presidency in the PLT elections.
Looking forward to this week, free pie to celebrate Thanksgiving. You are invited to enjoy a free slice of pumpkin or apple pie on Wednesday, October 5. The pie will be served from various locations. Student Services wishes everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Men's basketball team will be having their first home game on Saturday, October 8. Come support.
And the fun doesn't end there. There is a bus trip to West Edmonton Mall on Sunday, October 9. The bus will be leaving from Lakeview Hall at 10:30 a.m. and returning to campus by 6 o'clock p.m. Please sign up at the Lakeview Hall front desk.
Also, if you are looking for a challenge, participate in the Sleep Out Challenge on October 14 to raise money for YAP.
That is all the news we have for tonight.
I am your host, Christopher Villacorta Lopez.
And I'm Krisha Backen. Thanks for watching On Point News.